Season's greetings, Medical Wildcats. Today, with the help of Dan from Alumni Relations, we're going to take a virtual historic trip down State Street. We're going to reminisce and visit Marshall Field and look at the traditional Christmas decorations. Next. State Street became Department Store Row after the reconstruction from the fire of 1871, with such stores as Mandel Brothers, Goldblatt's, Wiebolt, Carson Peary Scott, and Marshall Fields. It was a family tradition for families from all over Chicago and the Midwest to visit, not necessarily for the sales, but for the spirit of the season. It became a near sacred family ritual to visit State Street and the department stores at this time of year. Next. Marshall Fields was as much a part of the Chicago tradition as one's favorite sports team or the lakefront. There were 13 picture windows along State Street. The Walnut Room with Mrs. Herring's chicken pot pie and the Great Tree, Frango Mints, and the cozy Cloud Cottage where children could visit Santa Claus were also part of the tradition. The Frango Mints were made in the store, but no longer. Next. The store's motto at this season was "Give the kids what they want." This was a variation of the store's traditional motto about "Give the lady what she wants." The windows told a story. Families from all socioeconomic groups could visit with each other and mingle, and it was a reason to be outdoors. Next. The store began as Field, Palmer, and Leiter and Company. Palmer was really Milton Palmer, Potter Palmer's brother. Potter wanted to go into real estate at this time and became a silent partner. Marshall Field bought out the other two, and the store became Marshall Field and Company. The store's motto was "Give the lady what she wants." Next. The State Street store opened in 1907. It was actually not completely finished until 1914, but the State Street store opened its doors in 1907. It had an atrium with a ceiling dome made from 1.6 million pieces of iridescent blue tile designed by Louis Tiffany. Marshall Field did not live to see the store open because on New Year's Day in 1906, he and a foursome went out to play golf on a snowy Chicago day. They played 18 holes in the snow with red golf balls. It was he, his nephew, Robert Todd Lincoln, who was the president's son, and another friend. Marshall Field came home, developed a terrible cold, pneumonia, and he died a few days later. So he did not see the store open. The store was designed by Daniel Burnham's firm. The actual architect was Charles Atwood. Next. The tradition of gift giving developed early in the 19th century and was firmly established by the mid-century. An editorial in the Tribune said that gift giving was extravagant and getting out of hand and would disappear by the year 2000 because it would be considered vulgar. Obviously, the Tribune was wrong. Next. The Great Tree is one of the traditions at Marshall Field and now Macy's. The tradition began in 1907, the year the store opened, when employees brought in their own small Christmas trees. For years, a real Christmas tree was used. The tree grew to 25 feet by 1934 and 45 to 50 feet by the mid-20th century. It transformed the atrium. Next. The crew went to Minnesota or Upper Michigan and looked for a 75-foot balsam tree and looked for a tree that was symmetric. They took off the top 45 or 50 feet and brought it to Chicago on a Saturday night. The doors at the Randolph and State Street side of the store had to be removed to get the tree in the store. And the tree was then mounted in a dried fountain in the Walnut Room. Next. It was billed as the world's largest indoor conifer. It was covered by over 2,000 ornaments and over 6,000 lights. The ornaments were made on the 13th floor. A member of the Chicago Fire Department guarded the tree around the clock, but there was also a fire extinguisher system built into the tree. Artificial trees began to be used in the mid 1960s, and some people say they were so realistic they could actually smell the scent of the balsam fir. The tree theme changed yearly, and it was in conjunction with the window themes. Next. The walnut room was also a fond family tradition. This was a room covered with walnut paneling imported from Russia. The restaurant was established in 1907 on the seventh floor of the building. Lunch in the walnut room under the great tree became a tradition for many families, and it featured comfort food favorites like Mrs. Herring's chicken pot pie, meatloaf, and cider glazed turkey. This year, the three-course meal for adults is $49.99 and $19.99 for children. I saw a menu from the 1940s, and the most expensive item on the menu was $1. Next. It was technology in glass manufacturing that made it possible to design the windows for this store and other department stores. Irving Colbert developed a new method of making large panes of glass, and he patented it in 1902. This made the mass production of large windows possible. He became bankrupt, but then he made money when Toledo Glass bought out the patent and then transferred it to Libby Owens. Next. Harry Selfridge was one of Marshall Field's junior partners. Later, he developed his own department store in London, which is still in existence today. He introduced the idea of tea rooms in the store, and also display tables for merchandise. Marshall Field did not want to have food served in his store, but was convinced by Selfridge that if he could make customers stay in the store longer, they would spend more money. Selfridge learned about a man named Arthur Fraser, who designed store windows in Creston, Iowa. He learned about this from one of the traveling salesmen for the store. Next. So Arthur Fraser came in from Southwest Iowa, a small town named Creston, and began designing the windows for Marshall Field in the old store in 1895. He filled the windows with visual extravaganza and not simply a lot of merchandise or make it a window so people could see what was going on in the store. He had the idea that more is not necessarily better. His first Christmas windows featured animated carousels and toy trains in 1897. It was designed to entice the viewer into the store. Later, he was dubbed America's foremost artist in window display. Next. His first display was a single window at the corner of State and Washington, and he continued to work at Marshall Field until 1944. He was given free rein for the displays, and eventually he had a staff of 50 and a budget of over $175,000 a year. He introduced moving toys in the store, and you can see in this picture one of his early windows with toy trains and carousels. These were not electric, and the store personnel had to wind them periodically during the day. He also featured colors for the year, and red was the it color in 1897. Next. Beginning in 1944, the windows began to tell a story, and the store had a new window designer named John Moss. He recreated Clement Moore's poem, A Visit from St. Nicholas, in 13 windows along State Street. The windows told a story as you walked along the sidewalk, and it was so popular it was repeated the following year. This was more magnetic than toy windows because it appealed to both adults and children. Next. So these are some examples of the 13 windows. In 1946, John Moss, the window supervisor, approached another designer in the store, Joanna Osborne, about developing a new character. And this was going to be named Uncle Mistletoe. Moss wanted Uncle Mistletoe to compete with Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer at Montgomery Ward's and Cinnamon Bear at Weebles. He wanted something completely new. So he had Addis Osborne, um, Joanna Osborne's husband, draw some sketches. Addis was an interior designer and an instructor at the Art Institute. And these were some of his initial sketches. Next. The final product, Uncle Mistletoe, was said to resemble Joanna's favorite uncle, Ola, in Oslo, Norway. He had a huge black top hat, a white scarf, a long red Dickens-like top coat, bushy eyebrows, a portly body, and a big smile, and gauzy wings. Next. Uncle Mistletoe first appeared in a story poem, A Christmas Dream, in the Marshall Field windows in 1946. Uncle Mistletoe helped Santa Claus. He did not compete with him. He stressed the importance of kindness at Christmas time and all year long. He had his own seasonal television show, which was discontinued after the 1952 holiday season. And he sat on top of the great tree for many years at Marshall Field. He appeared in a little golden book shown here on the right. And if you have a copy in good condition, it will fetch $30 or $35 on eBay now. Next. Uncle Mistletoe was joined 2 years later by Aunt Holly. Aunt Holly's favorite hobbies were making clothes for Uncle Mistletoe and baking cookies. She wore glasses so she could read her cookie recipes. The store sold many items featuring the couple, including dolls, books, ornaments, coloring sets, candles, puppets, cocktail napkins, etc. Next. Uncle Mistletoe and Aunt Holly were featured in many of the windows at Marshall Field through the years, but they were discontinued when Macy's took over. Next. The windows had annual themes, and some of the past themes include Disney, Star Wars, Harry Potter, Brothers Grimm, Dr. Seuss, and Mary Poppins. In the lower picture, you can see a Disney window. On the top shelf, in a Santa hat, you see Snow White, and on the lower window, you can see Paddington Bear and Winnie the Pooh. Next. The window designers were very innovative trying to solve problems that arose. They found that the best combination for making fake snow was a combination of ground glass and kosher salt. The windows were not air conditioned, were not heated, and one year there was a display featuring a punch bowl, and the punch froze. So they used motor oil instead of punch. Planning for the windows begins a year in advance, at least, and the construction begins in October. The windows are then unveiled in November. Next. The window gazing tradition has continued to fascinate all ages through the years. Next. But then came the great tragedy of 2005, according to many people. Marshall Field was bought out by Macy's, and they even changed the name to Macy's in 2006. Many believe that Macy's was a middle tier store, whereas Marshall Field was an upper tier store. Next. The holiday spirit continues inside the windows, and this in the upper right corner is one of Macy's windows. It is animated, and the baker in the red apron on the right is chasing the dog around the tree. But outside the windows, many Chicagoans were upset by the Macy's takeover. Next. But Macy's has continued the windows, the great tree, and the walnut room traditions. The theme last year was Believe in the Wonder. And this year's theme was just revealed, and it's thank you, gracias, merci, dedicated to healthcare workers, frontline workers, and all those who worked so hard this year during the pandemic. Next. Well, I'd like to wish everyone a very happy holiday season and a healthy and happy 2021. And let's to get together again virtually next month, and we'll feature a segment on the Chicago Maternity Center. Happy holidays.